Let's do it.
All
All
right.
right.
All right.
All
So
right.
introduce Christian. For those of you who have not heard Christian speak, I really, really sincerely appreciate you being here today. It's my pleasure to introduce Christian. He's an internationally renowned speaker, licensed clinical social worker, and advocate for youth. He is the author of the Resilience Breakthrough 27 Tools for Turning Adversity into Action. Christian was a commencement speaker in the School of Education at Johns Hopkins University and spoke at a White House convening for the Reach Higher initiative. Christian found his true passion in social work. He created the WhyTry program, which has been implemented in over 30,000 schools and organizations and has flown over 7 million miles to teach these concepts to students. So again, we're excited to be speaking with you today. And with that said, I'm going to turn the time over to you, Christian.
All right. Hey, thank you. Thank you. And again, 7 million miles, about half of those miles were to the great state of California. So I've been able to fly all over California. I even had a friend one day, took me in a prop plane all over California for like 6 different cities in a tiny prop plane. It was the scariest moment of my life. And so I've had some amazing experiences in the great adventure state. Anyways, I'm the author of the book, The Resilience Breakthrough. People always ask me, when I'm traveling, or people that have read the book, they'll say, people who haven't read the book, they'll say, "Hey, Christian, what's the key ingredient to being resilient? To be resilient, what's the number one thing a person has to have to be resilient?" Because my publisher told me that less than like 10% of self-help books are read all the way through. And so people want to get to the nuts and bolts. They're like, "Hey, just give me the key thing. What do I really need to do? What's the breakthrough? What do I have to be resilient?" And I always tell people the key to being resilient is because resilience is the ability to bounce back. You have to have something to bounce back from. You have to have some type of difficulty, opposition. So the key ingredient is suffering. Resilience has never showed up without suffering. And everybody that can hear my voice, we know there's a lot of mental health issues in our schools. There's a lot of trauma. The challenges that students have been through the last few years are unbelievable. And, we see what's going on in the world as well. There's no shortage of suffering. And so as a therapist, several years ago, I started realizing I'm not going to get too far in the change process until I can show people how to take some of those difficulties, how to use that suffering as a fuel source. And as people learn how to do that, they learn how to answer the question, why try? The name of my organization is WhyTry, because I started asking thousands of kids years ago, what's the answer to the question, why try? Most of them would shrug their shoulders and say, "Hey, I don't know, Mr. Moore." So I thought at the end of the day, I want every child to know if they try in life, they'll have more opportunity, more freedom, more self-respect. So I'm going to kind of walk you through a model of resilience today to help with absenteeism and different behavioral issues, different challenges kids are facing. Again, the first step of that model is suffering. And so just to kind of emphasize this concept, there's a song, it's my favorite song that ties to suffering, with a quick little video clip here. It's interesting. Yesterday, I was speaking in Salt Lake City to about 70 therapists, and I said, "How many of you deal with suffering?" And literally, like 3 to 4 hands went up. And it's because, most of us have been socialized. If, we have suffering, we have difficulty in our lives, something's wrong with us, where, we all know it's part of the human condition to have suffering. I've been on this earth for 54 years. There's never been a time in my life I haven't had, one of my kids get sick, a financial problem, a car breakdown, my house flooded. Here, example of this. Some of this is in the last year, some of the challenges I dealt with. My house did flood, did like $40,000 worth of damage. I tore my knee ligament. I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Now I'm off of insulin. I got the diabetes under control. When I was diagnosed with diabetes, my blood sugar was 730. At 400, you go into a coma. And I severely burnt my hand on a grill. So to say I understand suffering in the past year is a understatement. And again, if I could talk to everybody in this room right now listening to me, you all could tell me stories of challenges you're having in relationships, in your schools, in life. We know that is the human condition. So one of the first things I do is try to make sure the children and families I work with that they start to see how to use that suffering as a resource. And we're going to go into detail on that. But I want to kind of show you my life story a little bit and how I became so interested in the subject matter of resilience.
Hey, Christian, I think
I
we're having a
grew
hard
up
time
in
hearing your
between
video.
Baltimore
Can you
and
reshare
DC
it with audio?
in a family of 12. So to reshare it, I just need to go, just
You
click
just
out of it.
stop the share.
Oh, stop share right there, huh? All right.
Yeah. And then you'll share it again.
All right. Let me go. All right. Why is that not pulling up here? Let me see here. Okay. All right. Hold on. Hold on. I grew up in between Baltimore and DC. Sorry about that, you guys. I'm a social worker. I can deal with a crisis, if I'm dealing with someone with a trauma, but the technology is always exciting here for me here. Let me see here. Hey, Jake, I might need you to pop over here real quick, man, to hit that. All right. So, anyways, give you a little more background on my story. Why Jake's walking over here is, I grew up in between DC and Baltimore, a family of 12 kids. Both my parents had some mental health issues. See a little bit about that in that video. But as a child, I was diagnosed with ADHD, conduct disorder, severe learning disabilities. And in a nutshell, I was able to make it through school, with
I
some
grew up
severe
in between
learning
Baltimore
disabilities. Here
and
we go.
DC and a family of 12 kids, 5 brothers, 6 sisters. Both my parents had some mental health challenges. My mom had social phobia, generalized anxiety disorder, had a fear of leaving the house. You have to leave the house to go get food. So it wasn't a lot of food to eat sometimes in my house growing up.
Don't tell anyone, but my dad was one of the highest level code breakers at the National Security Agency. You could give my dad any mathematical problem and he could instantly rattle it off the top of his head. My dad was autistic. He was a genius, but he had very little common sense or social skills. If you've ever seen that movie, A Beautiful Mind, you've met my dad.
So having 2 parents with some mental health challenges put me in a situation where I ended up being a street kid. I could hang out till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning on a school night, had very few rules, very few boundaries. One night, I was out late at night and a car pulls up and I hear a voice. And the voice I hear is the voice of a woman who I endearingly call Mama Jackson. It was one of my best friend's moms who sees me out there, late at night.
Christian had so many obstacles that was going on in his home.
She knows what I'm out there doing, and she says, look, don't you ever set foot on our property. I'm gonna call the school tomorrow. I'm gonna make sure you're not in any of Sean's classes. I remember thinking to myself, dang, I know I'm bad, but I'm not that bad. I can never go to school with him ever again.
When you see a child that's hungry, there's no happiness there. You're thinking about what other kids have.
Going to school was very difficult for me. As a child, I was diagnosed with ADHD, conduct disorder, and severe learning disabilities. When I was sitting in a classroom, oftentimes, I was embarrassed. When I got called out loud, I would act up and get in trouble instead of embarrassing myself because I didn't know how to read or didn't know how to do basic math. So, for me, it was like going to the doctor's office every day, going to school. I had a hard time telling time. When I was even 17 years old, I couldn't tell time on a hand clock. To me, 5:15 equals 25 minutes to 5, but they tell me 15:15.
When we concentrate on that more to make sure that a child's needs are provided for, then that child will thrive. I know that I'm loved, and I know that this person is going to feed me.
Mama Jackson took over and said, look, if you start going to school every day, I want to see your report cards. If you start answering to me, you can come eat in our house anytime you want. Now, Mama Jackson was a seriously, seriously good cook. That's one of the reasons why I'm in top physical condition right now. But anyways, I was very blessed to have Mama Jackson come into my life. It was kind of an informal foster care situation. She took over and really started giving me skills of resilience, had a huge impact on my life. And I'm excited to share with you all the different skills and strategies that Mama Jackson gave me to help me become resilient.
One of his teachers in high school said to him that he would never go to college. Christian went to college.
Growing up in between DC and Baltimore, I saw many social problems in my community, in my neighborhood. You know, I saw poverty, I saw hopelessness at times. I even saw some violence. But I remember walking to school one morning and literally seeing one of my best friends evicted from his house. His furniture was all throughout his front yard. I could see the heartbreak in his eyes, his parents' eyes. And I knew in that moment, I wanted to be a social worker. And I knew I could not become a social worker unless I went to college. You know, but I was told college was probably not going to be an option for me with a 6th grade math level, a 7th grade reading and writing level. You know, statistically, I had a better chance of playing the NBA and becoming LeBron James.
His experience was at the other side of the track. Life was different. Life was unique. And the kids like that, they have to survive.
I struggled getting through college math. You know, college math is a requirement to make it through school. I remember that feeling in my stomach when I knew I couldn't graduate.
They're not going to let me graduate because I can't do math. I can't count money, I can't numbers, I get confused and all of these things. He was like a bobcat in a cage.
So I came up with something called the No F game plan. And this was a strategy that I used to make it through school with my learning differences.
He made himself big. He made himself known to others. I'm here. Hey, I may not have what you have, but I have a street smart.
I would go to every class. I would sit on the front row. I would do all the homework assignments. And I would do enough extra credit to get a D-. I would shoot for A's, but I learned in college you get just as much credit with a D-.
And his paper is not polished. Other students get an A. Christian gets B, sometimes a C. But he has ideas. He has a substance. And the WhyTry program that he ran with and helped incredible number of students and the teachers and administrators came out of a classwork.
He created an environment to teach teachers how to really deal with students that may have significant functional limitations.
I persevered. Luckily, I knew what resilience was. I knew how to take my academic challenges and use them as a reason to knock down barriers, to focus on what was right with me, not what was wrong with me.
The vision of WhyTry, and I think this thing is called the roller coaster ride. And I'm so glad that when he fell off of that roller coaster, that he got back on.
Dr. Virgil Wood, civil rights icon and close friend to Dr. Martin Luther King, learned about WhyTry's impact and decided to honor Mama Jackson with the National Rosa Parks Save the Children Award. Mama Jackson gave me a safe and loving environment so I could thrive. She didn't get rid of my problems at home, at school, in my neighborhood. She showed me how to use those problems as a fuel source to put one foot in front of another and create a productive outcome with the opposition. Despite my many challenges, I was able to get a master's degree with a 6th grade math level and a 7th grade reading and writing level and become a...
I'm gonna cut that a little short because of time here. As you can see, I had some incredible people come into my life, mentor me. You can't see this right now, but there's an army of incredible people behind me that opened up doors for me and gave me the opportunity to answer the question, why try, and access opportunity, freedom, self-respect. I had a professor, the professor you saw, Dr. Mike Seipel there in the video, came to me in college and said, Christian, do me a favor, just write down for me on a piece of paper, how did you make it this far in school with your background, with your learning differences? So I just wrote down a few principles on a piece of paper. Like a lot of kids with learning disabilities, severe ADHD, I could talk nonstop, I could draw really good. So I started just hand drawing everything. And so when he said, write this down for me, I wrote down, and you heard Mama Jackson alluding to the reality ride there. This is the reality ride. And now these are specific skills of resilience. And these skills have been used literally in thousands of districts to deal with absenteeism, behavioral issues. And so we took the most evidence-based mental health for dealing with behavioral problems, and then we reinforced those with music, physical activities, visual metaphors. So again, these are skills of resilience. And Jake's going to go into far greater detail and show you what a lesson plan looks like here in just 2 minutes here. But so again, in my own life, I had to stop crashing. I had to tear off my labels. I had all these labels right here growing up. Failure, learning disabled, dumb, lazy, rebellious. I just had a school counselor in Las Vegas a couple days ago, literally took groups of 100 kids who were having a lot of tension, a lot of conflict, and they were labeling each other, using pretty harsh language towards each other in different groups. And he literally took all the kids, this counselor, into the auditorium and taught them this lesson right here. It was the most amazing thing. It's actually, another resource, and Jake could probably talk about it, we have free webinars you can access, and you can literally see him talking about how he used this lesson plan with literally over 500 kids. It's an amazing, amazing story. So please check out, and Jake will tell you how to get access to that. But again, in my own life, I had to tear off my labels. I had to learn how to control my defense mechanisms. When I was in school, the teacher would say, Christian, turn to page 130 and read out loud. I didn't know how to read, so I'd swear at the teacher or punch the kid next to me, because I'd much rather be sent to the principal's office for acting out behaviorally. This is a simple, what I call the motivation formula. I look at life's problems being like water. Water can flood and do damage, like just happened in my house, or we have to drink enough water to stay alive. Again, it's our best friend and our worst enemy. And my goal is to show, children and families how to take that challenge, how to take that pain and channel it in ways that are very productive. And there's a tribute to my home state of Maryland. I'll say to the students, if you put a bunch of live crabs in the pot, don't put it on the pot. Why can't the crabs get out of the pot? The kids will say, well, the other crabs, I'm pulling them down. So I say, hey, your friends you're skipping school with, fighting with, you're doing drugs with, all they're doing is they're pulling you down, they're keeping you in the pot. Then every question that the teacher or the counselor asks the student is written around the metaphor. Then again, it's reinforced with music, physical activities, because at the time I'm just going to flash through these really quick here to give you a little feel. And this is an important one, how to get plugged into a support system. One of the good things that came from COVID is we know these kids have to get plugged into a support system. Here I have a parent or caregiver, a positive friend, teacher, counselor, school official, positive mentor. Because of COVID, the debate is over. We know this is the biggest X factor, and Jake will talk a little bit more about how we really emphasize what this relationship needs to look like. And then the last picture kind of sums it up. Often when we first work with students, especially students are dealing with behavioral issues, absenteeism, they're standing right here next to this wall. They may be dealing with academic problems, failure, drugs, anger, different societal, social problems. But our goal is they learn how to stop crashing, tear off their labels, they can get on top of that wall right there. And the beautiful thing about making it visual was at the end of the hour, I'd say to the child, what does this picture teach? And again, we put over 3 million students to these pictures. We've never had a kid go, I don't get that picture, K through 12th grade. And now I'm going to turn the time over to Jake to share with you a little more detail. I just want to introduce him really fast. Jake, he's a little bit younger than me, quite a bit younger than me, but this guy's amazing. He's become one of my mentors. He's one of the most passionate people about this work. What he's done in California the last 2 years is amazing. He has worked with one of the largest after-school programs in California. He's literally gotten these tools to hundreds of thousands of kids. I always like to say I'm the hot air. Jake is the real deal. He does the work where the rubber hits the road. And again, not only is he a friend, he's a mentor of mine, and he inspires me every day. Man, he is helping many, many kids across this country. So here is my friend Jake. I'll hit the stop share.
Fantastic. Thank you, Christian. I really appreciate it. I'm going to pull up some slides here. Okay. Christian, can you see this slide okay?
Yep.
Awesome. So again, thank you everyone for being here. So what I want to share, so Christian kind of walked through a little bit of his life story, and he walked through the visuals that we'll typically use to teach concepts to kids K through 12. And most of these concepts are centered on skills of resilience. And one of our ultimate goals and one of the results that we see as we teach these skills of resilience is reduction in some behavioral problems, disruptions. We see reduction and we see a real influence in attendance. Students are engaged and they're attending school. It kind of takes a preventative approach in that way. And it also re-engages students who maybe don't come as often. And so we really started working closely with the SARB board there in California a few years ago, and have adapted some of our concepts and lessons to help continually help reduce chronic absenteeism, not just in California, but nationwide. This has become a real significant issue that we're seeing continue to climb. And so we want to use these skills of resilience to really help our students to not only want to come to school, but to engage. Okay. And so I want to start here by introducing the name of our organization, WhyTry. Okay, something that I always hear when I'm wearing kind of some of our gear that says WhyTry on it. People will come up to me and be like, "Hey, I get it. Why try? Why even try?" But really, that represents the whole motivation and mission of our company and of our organization is helping students to understand the why. Why am I putting effort into school, into relationships, into responsibilities when all I have are different challenges? I have to be at home picking up my little brother and sister from school. I have to be the breadwinner sometimes. I have to help my family in all these different ways, or I have these learning differences that make school really disengaging and not fun and embarrassing for me sometimes. And so we want to help students understand and gain their own personal why while developing these skills of resilience. So we have these skills of resilience, but WhyTry is not just these skills, but WhyTry is also an approach. And I want to share with you our approach. This is really our bread and butter for WhyTry's success over the past 25 years in engaging students. It's a simple approach, but I'm going to kind of walk through it with you step by step. And so we call this approach the new 3 R's. Okay. Now I'm sure you can remember the old 3 R's. We have the reading, writing, and arithmetic. Now, I don't know about you, but those old 3 R's don't make any sense because they don't all start with R. Okay. So it kind of brings the question to go off on a tangent. Does spelling still matter? Okay. Does spelling still even matter? Okay. So we have here obviously a student who is trying to write Abraham Lincoln, and instead we get April Ham Lincoln. Okay. If you ever need a good laugh, just look up children's spelling mistakes. I love that's not how you spell whole, family, okay? I like Mrs. Edwards. She is my techer. I like when she does, that's not how you spell math with us, okay? Might be some concerns there. I enjoy, once again, not how you spell beach. I love Satan. Okay, clearly we've got a girl who's celebrating Christmas, wanting to write that she loves Santa. The funny thing about this picture to me, little side note, it's kind of hard to distinguish, what she's actually going for there. Okay, again, if you ever need a good laugh, look up some. Everybody's got an iPhone. Everybody's got a phone now. Look up some, autocorrect mistakes. Hey, Mom, the crack I bought for Dad's birthday was about 500. That okay? Wow, it was so much cheaper when I was young. Cake. Sorry, Mom. Wait, what, Mom? This one's one of my favorites. Where's Granny? I thought she was going to be here for Thanksgiving. Grandma's in the grave? What? Grave? What are you saying? Oops, sorry, garage. Oh, autocorrect. Okay, so you can kind of see we're going through this. Does spelling still even matter? Of course, spelling matters. Spelling, and really our core subjects, our English, our math, our science, all of these core subjects, history, are still vital. They're important. Your reading, writing, and arithmetic. But over the years, we've developed these new 3 Rs that we would argue are just as equally important to keep your students engaged and to keep them, as skilled and successful learners throughout their life. Okay. And so this first R that we have is the relationship. Okay. We believe this to be the key factor in student motivation. All right. I'm sure many of you already knew this. Okay. Before I even said the first R, you were thinking it's the relationship. Okay. But what WhyTry does, and what we do as an organization is we don't need only teach that, hey, relationships are important. We like to talk about how to build meaningful and positive relationships and to create a culture of meaningful and positive connections with students so that they know that you care and so that they want to learn from you. Oftentimes when we go to trainings, we'll use this visual that Christian shared of the roller coaster. And with this roller coaster, we call it the reality ride. And the core focus is to discuss how decisions have consequences. As part of this, we talk about students' challenges that they have at home, at school, and with their peers. Okay. What do you think the most common responses that we get when we ask them, hey, what's your biggest challenge at school? One of the most common responses that we get is that my teacher doesn't like me. My teachers hate me. Obviously, we'll take that with a grain of salt. Obviously, teachers, for the most part, do love their students, do care for their students, and do want to connect with their students and provide them with the skills and knowledge necessary to improve and to go on and be a successful individual. But oftentimes, we don't know how to communicate that effectively, or oftentimes we miscommunicate with our students. And so what we do here with this program is to teach how. How do we communicate effectively with our students? How do we create a culture of connection with our students, create a trauma-informed environment, create a place that where students feel safe to open up and to learn and to engage, a place where they want to learn. I'll give an example. When I first went through college, I had a professor in a large auditorium. And one of the first things he said was, don't bother putting your name on your piece of paper because I don't care to know your name. Okay, I don't want to know your name. I'm here to teach. I'm here to give you knowledge, but don't bother trying to get me to memorize your name. Okay, and can you imagine, myself and the rest of the students, the engagement level that we had on that first day of class and through the rest of the semester? We obviously, and I can speak for myself, I didn't do well in that class because I knew this teacher, this professor did not care about me. And so why would I even put in an effort? That professor, although maybe he did care about me as an individual, or maybe he did care about the success of his students, what he communicated that day communicated to me that this doesn't even matter. He doesn't even care to know my name. Okay. And so what we're trying to do is to help build positive and meaningful connections for students. So it's that relationship component. It can be the key driver in student motivation. I'm sure all of you can remember the elementary school teacher that you had when you were little, or maybe just a teacher that you had in middle school, high school, or a college professor that had that positive relationship with you, and you excelled in that class. You pushed forward, and you knew that they were there to help you and guide you. I know I can name mine. Okay. Our next R is relevance. We call this the key to why. Okay, relevance is crucial in academics. Are we using music? Are we incorporating music in our lesson plans? Music can be a great opportunity to elevate mood. It can be, we can incorporate classical music into our classrooms to convey, thinking, learning, meditation, quiet. And music can be upbeat, create energy, promote relaxation, and to help put our students at ease. We can use popular music to communicate that, hey, we know that you like this style of song. We know that you like this style of artist. And so we're incorporating these songs into the classroom because we know that it's what you enjoy. Okay.
I recommend Taylor Swift. I do recommend Taylor Swift's dance.
Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I just get excited, man. But
Do you also use activities? Do you incorporate activities? Do you use activities in order to create engagement? Stories and metaphors. Are we using relevant stories, relevant metaphors, pictures that students can see their life in visually? And then do we incorporate media and tech? Are we inviting them to use media and tech within the classroom? We've seen a huge investment in media and tech in classrooms over the past 5 years. Most students have a Chromebook now. Most students are engaging with this. And the reason for this is because the number one activity that students participate in outside of the classroom is obviously music and social media. Okay. Those things aren't going away. These are things that are relevant in our students' lives. So we have to find ways to appropriately incorporate these learning styles into the classroom. Okay. Again, going back to this concept of teaching students in ways that they like to learn. Right now, this year, I believe Apple is going to release the iPhone. Geez, I think it's is it the 16 or the 17? It's one of those. Okay. And so about 16 or 17 years ago, the iPhone was released for the first time. Can you think back 17, 16 years ago and think about all the changes that have happened since then, the changes with the students that you work with, for those of you who have been in education for a while, to think about the different learning styles, to think about the instant gratification of information that students have at their fingertips. Okay, so a real challenge that we see nationwide is how do we bring generational relevance into our classroom? How do we incorporate things that students truly enjoy, students, learning styles, again, going back to music, activities, media, and tech, how do we incorporate that into common subjects that we're already teaching so that students can actually see that this is important and this is relevant in my day-to-day life? Do we use language and communicate with students that is generationally relevant to them? Okay, so we have that relationship plus the relevant content, okay? And that plants the seed for our third R, which is resilience, okay? Which is one of the main topics that we wanted to discuss today. The relationship, again, plus that relevant content helps plant the seed for a resilient child, okay? And what do I mean by resilience? Okay, have you ever wondered why one student will take his or her challenges and give up? They begin to hurt themselves or hurt others. They stop showing up to school. They start acting out behaviorally. And another student, in spite of his or her challenges, continues to work and try to be better each day. Okay, I'm sure you see it all the time. You have two students who are coming from the same background, facing some very similar issues, very similar problems. One student has completely shut down, stopped coming to school, or is acting out in other ways. And you have this other student who is thriving, continually working and trying to be better each day. What is the difference between those two students? Okay, I want you to think about that. If our chat was working more effectively, I'd have you type in what you think the difference between those two students is, but I'll have you just think about it. What is the difference between these two students? We would argue that one student has resilience and the other one doesn't. Okay, now consider this. Is resilience something that you are just born with, or is it something that you can teach? Okay, now if it is something that you can teach, that is one of the most profound and important skills that we need to teach our students so that they can thrive in the midst of adversity. That is why we're here speaking today, because we do believe that you can teach resilience. You can help students understand these concepts, these sources, these skills of resilience, so that they can bounce back when they have every reason to shut down, but continue to fight on. Okay. So that's what WhyTry is really all about. Christian walked over some of our metaphors, some of the founding aspects of WhyTry. But WhyTry is also this approach, these three R's: the relationship, relevance, and resilience. And this is all included with our digital toolkits, utilizing these concepts. And I'll share a little bit more about that later. But I'm going to turn the time back over to Christian to discuss a few more things.
All right, let me get my screen back on here. All right, well, thank you so much, Jake, for sharing that. And you know, I don't always do this, but I definitely want you guys to have access to Jake. So, literally, he's consulted with literally thousands of districts. If you guys want to access him, I promise you, he will really help you problem solve the issues in your district. He's an incredible problem solver, has incredible amount of experience working with youth and doing this work in literally thousands of schools. So you guys have basically a free resource as a consultant. Now he might kill me for saying that, but any of you will be able to, he's going to give his information. Any of you can contact him. And I'm telling you, I talk to people all the time that use him as a consultant, and they love him, they respect him, and he helps solve their problems in their district. So that's probably the most important thing that will come out of this is being able to access Jake. So I appreciate him sharing that. What I want to do real quick, I'm just going to take probably about 6-7 minutes to do this, is I want to share with you where resilience comes from internally. The name of my book is The Resilience Breakthrough, because what we found was that it was important to study people with high trauma that were thriving. My first, 20 years essentially as a social worker, I worked with people with high trauma who were hurting themselves and others. They end up coming into counseling with me and stuff. And then one day I had an amazing educator who said to me, Christian, why don't you pay attention to this other population that has high trauma and is thriving? And I remember I was doing some work in Detroit, Baltimore, and I'd run across these kids whose mom's in prison, dad's an alcoholic, a million dealt with abuse, violence. They made my childhood look like Disneyland. And I would see these kids thriving. I'm like, what are they tapping into? And we kept seeing four things pop up over and over again. The first thing we saw pop up was something called relational resilience. And that just means you go through the motions, you don't give up because another person needs you and you need them. It's that interdependence. Again, we're social creatures. We all need that interdependence. This is a picture of my two kids, Cooper and Carson. If I never ever got invited to speak again, I would literally go work in 4 different fast food restaurants because they need me, I need them. That makes me relationally resilient. So it's turning to other people for help. I'll tell you a quick story. Jake might laugh at me sharing the story with you, but yesterday my son Cooper, he's a little older now, and he's going through a hard time with his girlfriend. So I was like, man, just having a hard time, figuring out how to help Cooper. So I asked Jake, hey Jake, you're younger, you're closer to age than my son Cooper, man. This is the situation I'm dealing with. And Jake gave me an idea. He said, the purpose of dating is to learn, is to have failure in dating. And so I went home, shared that with Cooper, and it made a big difference for him. It really helped him. And I got all the credit. Jake is the genius. But that interdependence, does that make sense? When you get help from other people, I couldn't figure out how to help my son right there. And so reaching out to my friend Jake and asking for help. So that's relational resilience. We need help from other human beings. We only have so much capacity, so much ability. We cannot be on an island. So that's that relational resilience right there. And, there's a lot of great examples of relational resilience. Of course, Mama Jackson was that relational resilience. Me, Harriet Tubman is a powerful example of relational resilience. On the Underground Railroad, we know she freed over, 300 slaves on the Underground Railroad, and she was able to do that because she knew at what level they needed her and she needed them. And Mother Teresa is a powerful example of that. One of my favorite examples is Rick and Dick Hoyt, who ran in over 240 triathlons together. And he says when he became the legs for his son, it completely transformed his life. That interdependence. So that's the first place that resilience comes from internally. Again, WhyTry that Jake was showing you, those are skills of resilience. but what I realized is we have to be able to teach that inner motivation in combination with the skills of resilience if we're really going to impact absenteeism. So let me pull this up right here. The second place that resilience comes from internally is something called street resilience. And that's where you use any type of past mistake or disrespect. I had a professor who came to me in college and said, Christian, if you can get a college degree, my degree is worth less. I literally walked off that college campus in tears. About 8, 9 years later, I was in 2 introduction to college, social work college textbooks. There's something called evidence-based RTI, PBIS. So the professor who said to me I shouldn't even be on the college campus, he has to lecture on my theories in the classroom. Now you might say, Christian, you're kind of bragging right now. And I would argue, no, I'm not bragging. I'm being street resilient. You told me I'm not even good enough to be on this college campus. Now I'm in these textbooks. I have value. I had value before. And so it's really powerful. When I asked thousands of kids with high trauma, what enabled you to bounce back? There's an amazing example right now. Look up a guy named Wes Moore. He grew up grew up in Baltimore, similar background to me. He was speaking nationally, just like I was on a lot of these topics. He is currently the governor of Maryland. Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland. And politics, he is a fascinating person to just kind of learn about his life and what he overcame. I think one day he might end up becoming president, but he's a fascinating example of street resilience. He took tremendous disrespect, opposition, and again became the governor. And I would not be shocked if one day he is the president of the United States. But what motivated him to do that is that street resilience. And again, when we look at people with high trauma that are thriving, all of them scream about street resilience. The next place that resilience comes from internally, because I read hundreds of books on resilience. They taught me the skills of resilience, but I wanted to know, where does resilience come from here? And I know in my own life, my brain tells me I'm short, fat, goofy. I couldn't find my neck this morning. My brain focuses on what's wrong with me. And but I don't stay motivated here. To be motivated, I got to get the heck out of here, because the biggest war I'm fighting is between my 2 ears, right? I got to get out of here and tap into here. And what helps me tap into here is maximizing my relational resilience, my street resilience. And here's the beautiful thing. Jake was showing the picture, his resilience learned. Why is this kid thriving? This other kid's not thriving. We know resilience can be taught. Resilience is a learned skill. And that's why education is the most powerful thing on the planet, because it's through knowledge, it's through this education. And we know we can teach it. And to me, that's kind of a national social justice issue, is why are millions of kids getting access to evidence-based resilience and millions of kids are not? And to be really frank with you, that's why we're on this webinar together. I'm saying, hey, please help me get these skills of resilience to all kids in this country. Because again, literally, I'm personally seeing millions of kids learning these skills, and millions of kids don't even begin to have access to where internal motivation and resilience comes from. And again, that's my life's work. That's what I'm going to do till I'm 6 feet under. I don't know of anything more important than what you guys are involved in, using education to empower these kids to take opposition suffering, because we're all going to experience it. That's as normal as breathing. But you have to understand the tools and how to take anger, how to take sadness, how to take loneliness and create a productive outcome with it. And tapping into that relational resilience, that street resilience. The next one here is resource resilience. And that's where you maximize your talents, your abilities, your resources. One of the greatest resources I was just talking about is education. I mean, the amount of information that I can access on this iPhone and get knowledge is unbelievable. That is a resource to me. You can tap into the resources and systems from my community. You can use and develop your talents, your abilities. A few minutes ago, I was saying I only had 2 talents. I could talk nonstop and I could draw really good. As a kid, Maryland had corporal punishment. So they would literally beat me with a wood paddle for my nonstop speaking. And I look back and I think, man, the principal should have put that paddle down and explained to me the #1 fear in America is public speaking. And he should have said, Christian, you have conduct disorder, severe ADHD. You don't really care what other people think about you. You might be a really good public speaker one day. And I've had the opportunity to go 7 million miles across this great country, doing public speaking. And then my other talent and skill was art. So I just combined the ability to communicate and art. And, we were able to impact these 3 million students. And, but that's resource resilience. I just maximize the resources around me. And again, you can't see this. There's an army of people from Mama Jackson. I've been mentored by, Martin Luther King's best friend. I've been mentored by some of the top, Dr. Seipel, you saw in that video, was out of Cornell University. Was one of the leading experts in poverty in the United States. And so to be mentored by these incredible, incredible people that have actually impacted American history, I should be giving you a better speech right now with the amount of resource resilience. I apologize for not giving a better presentation because my resources are tremendous. And the mentoring has been tremendous. To give you a quick example, for example, my book, The Resilience Breakthrough. And by the way, you know what, Jake? I'm not even with you guys, and I'm feeling emotional today and worked up. So I'm going to give everybody in my ear shot. I'm going to give you all a free digital copy of The Resilience Breakthrough. And if you set up, is what I'm going to do. You set up a consultation with Jake, and I'll have him send you that. And if you do a demo with him and get a couple key people to jump on with Jake, you guys, and Jason probably kill me for saying this, but I will literally send you a signed copy of the book. Now, the problem is Jake's going to have to send all those out. I'm going to sign my signature in 2 seconds, and Jake's going to have to do all the work, and he's going to kill me at the end of this webinar. But sorry, Jake, I apologize, man, but I like this audience. I don't know. I haven't even met this audience, and I like them. I don't know what's going on right now. So, Jake, that's the situation. Are you okay with that, Jake? All right. And so, but anyways, that's that resource resilience. It's just maximizing these talents, these abilities, these resources, and helping kids understand where those resources lie. A lot of kids don't even realize the resources around them that they can access. And keep in mind, you guys, we have elaborate lesson plans that go with all this. I'm just barely skimming the surface. And then the last place that resilience comes from internally is something called rock bottom resilience. And that's in your lowest point. You believe in your ability to do something we call flipping the switch. You say to yourself, how do I use this challenge? How do I use this opposition as my best friend? If I was your therapist, I'd figure out what your worst rock bottom moment is. And then I would show you how to turn that into your best friend, because there's not a third option. Either it's going to be your best friend or your worst enemy. Someone that I'm speaking to thousands of people sometimes in the audience, I'll say, I'll give you $10,000 if you can tell me when you have a crisis, what's the third option? And they'll say, well, you can sit on the fence. But if you sit on the fence, you're going backwards. You're going to sit on that fence and do nothing. I know sometimes we need to shut down. We need to catch our breath. We need to do nothing. So I totally get that. But you will not progress unless we push through. So that rock bottom resilience is so important. Again, it's the human condition. What makes us human is that all of us have sat at the bottom of this staircase. It's actually what's most special about us. It's what makes us human. Otherwise, we'd be AI. We may as well be a robot. We may as well be a machine. But all of us throughout our lives will spend time. And then what do? You have that guy sitting there at the bottom of that staircase. We're at our low moment. We jump back up and we sprint back up that staircase and we fight that fight. Resilience takes place in the striving. And, I've never reached resilience. I'm one of the leading experts on resilience. I get that. And that shocks people when I say, I've never reached resilience, because resilience is not a destination. Resilience takes place in effort, is in putting one foot in front of another when you have every reason to shut down. So I just want to walk you through. I want to end with kind of a quick summary of the resilience breakthrough. And then in the book, by the way, that Jake is going to send you, we have 27 strategies on how to tap into relational resilience, street resilience, resource, and rock bottom resilience. And by the way, the co-author with me on the book is a guy named Brad Anderson. He's the one who, like 30 years ago, interviewed a guy named Stephen R. Covey. And he said, so what you're trying to say is, he wrote down 80 pages of notes, and he said, they win, you win. Let's call that a win-win. He literally coined the phrase win-win, wrote the corporate curriculum for Franklin Covey, heard me talking about these 4 sources that I'm sharing with you right now, quit his job and spent 4 years writing this book that Jake's about to send to you. So he was literally the Babe Ruth of intellectual property. So again, when I'm talking about this army standing behind me, I was extremely blessed to have the leading experts in these areas sit down, do research. He wouldn't even put anything in the book that was not evidence-based. He says, Christian, if there's not research, I've been doing this for 30 years. I can't put my name behind it. So this guy is the real deal. So I was very blessed to have Brad there. And so again, rock bottom resilience it takes place in the striving. So just the model really quick. The first thing you have to be resilient is you have to have suffering. The second thing you have to do is flip the switch. You have to ask yourself, how do I use that suffering as my best friend? And then, if you have suffering, you're going to have negative emotions. We help children understand that they can maximize both their positive and negative emotions. If you think about it, you have twice the fuel source to bounce back. If you can channel the negative emotions and the positive emotions. And we have elaborate lesson plans that show the students exactly how to do that. And again, if you just jump on a call with Jake, he'll walk you through all that. And then we have to be able to access those 4 sources of resilience: relational resilience, street resilience, resource, and rock bottom. And what we do know after many years working on this, resilience is a learned skill. You do not have to be born with resilience. We can literally teach it to you. And to say we're a little bit excited about that is an understatement. So WhyTry that we put the 3 million kids through, again, that's visual metaphors reinforced with music, physical activities. But what I just talked about here with these 4 sources of resilience, this is where the inner motivation comes from to apply those skills right there. And I want to turn the time back over to Jake. I want to thank you guys for, again, devoting your lives and sacrificing tremendously right now. We all know what's going on in education, and it is no joke what you guys are dealing with. You guys are seriously my heroes. I want you to really feel that, hear that, and you guys, seriously, Jake is the real deal. I promise you, reach out to him. It will not cost you anything to just consult with that guy. He has helped many systems problem solve in some incredible ways. So please reach out to my hero, Jake, and I promise you, he will not let you down. If he lets you down, you contact me, and no, I'm just kidding. He won't let you down. I promise you. There's no risk in me saying that. So, all right, here's Jake. Let me stop my screen share. And you guys, seriously, thanks for taking time out of your busy day to be with us.
Yeah, again, thank you so much. I'm going to share just real briefly, how we've comprised everything that Christian and I have talked about today into toolkits with lesson plans that you can actually take and deliver to your students. And at the end of that, I'm going to put up a QR code that will take you to a website page that will give you access to sample lesson plans, our free parent guide to resilience, access to our upcoming webinars with CEU opportunities, as well as some access to Christian's book. So I'm going to share just real briefly. I know some of you on here may be familiar with these tools, but really this is the WhyTry program. It's a digital toolkit where you can have access. Students don't have access to this, but teachers, facilitators, counselors, you name it. The adults in your building can have access to this to teach resilient skills to the kids that you work with. So you can see here you have a facilitator toolkit. You'll have pre-built elementary lessons that are pre-K through 6, and then you have secondary lessons that are pre-built as well. But I just want to give you an idea of how we utilize this. You can see here that our toolkit is kind of set in 2 different sections. We have our learning units, everything from that reality ride to that walk up the wall that Christian shared with you. Our lesson tools, all of our visuals, processing guides, learning activities, hundreds of different learning activities to keep the content relevant, journal prompts, presentations, video resources, popular videos, WhyTry music, suggested playlists on Apple Music, Spotify, and YouTube, book lists, training videos, flexible lesson plans, and assessment tools, pre and post testing for the program, all to help deliver these resilience skills, okay? So these are all designed to give you an easy, digestible way, user-friendly, to deliver these resilience skills. You'll also see over here competencies. So I talked about our 3 R's, the relationship, the relevance, and the resilience, okay? This is how, under these competencies, it gives real specific strategies on how to utilize our approach when teaching these skills of resilience. So how do we effectively frame? How do we facilitate activities? How do we effectively storytell or use music? How do we stay flexible in building these lessons? Okay, so WhyTry is a very flexible toolkit that can be utilized to teach these skills of resilience in a visual approach that's reinforced by music, art activities, physical activities, journal prompts that we update frequently to ensure that it stays relevant for the students that you work with. You know, and Christian also mentioned the sources of resilience. We also have a toolkit that helps in that very similar approach as WhyTry, that helps us to teach the sources of resilience to students. Okay, so he talked about flipping the switch. He talked about relational resilience, street resilience, resource resilience, and rock bottom resilience. Okay, so we have digestible lesson plans from that book, The Resilience Breakthrough, that you can deliver to students so that we can teach these concepts to them at their level so that they can become resilient individuals who can bounce back from adversity and to keep thriving, to keep pushing through, and to ultimately find their own personal why. To tag along with that, I really emphasized the relationship. Okay. And I said that WhyTry really prides itself in teaching the how to student connectedness and relationships. Okay. And so that's one of the reasons that we've developed the Transformational Leadership Toolkit as well. So this is something that we would actually give to and do a training for your leadership team on, that they would then take and deliver to you know, your entire staff, your entire team, all of your teachers, your schools, your school districts. So this is basically we would equip you with a toolkit with individual workshops that you can utilize during your PD days, during your PLCs, workshops that you can utilize to reinforce the value of relationships, to reinforce the value of creating a trauma-informed classroom, and to give specific strategies to build and maintain positive, meaningful connections with students. Okay. Lastly, this is the free parent guide to resilience that we're going to be giving away today. You can use this. You can send this to as many parents as you'd like to send it to. You can put. We have some schools who put it on their website. We have some schools who utilize this during parent nights to give real specific strategies to teach and foster resilience concepts in their homes, to create a resilient family, so that they can listen to it like an audiobook. It reads kind of like a chapter book. And then there's activities, there's videos, there's different things that parents and families can utilize to teach and foster resilience. Okay, so you're going to get this completely free. I'm going to pull up this QR code. Again, this QR code, it's not going to ask you for any information. It's just going to take you to our website where you can access all of these free strategies. Now, Christian mentioned you can schedule an individual demo or consultation with me. Feel free to email me, jake@whytry.org. I would be happy to send you a free digital copy of Christian's book, so you can look through the Resilience Breakthrough for additional resources and strategies as well. We sincerely, sincerely appreciate you taking the time, this hour out of your day, to be here with us, to listen to some of these strategies. I don't want you to walk away empty-handed. So please take our Parent Guide to Resilience and our sample lesson plans that you can utilize right now to teach the skills and sources of resilience, and to help students, you know, stay engaged in school, to prevent, you know, further chronic absenteeism, to keep students engaged, to reduce some behavioral outcomes, and to ultimately build students who can see opportunity, freedom, and self-respect in their future. That's the ultimate goal, to give them their why and to help them to see opportunities, freedom, and self-respect in their future. Okay. So again, thank you. Thanks so much for coming. We'll stick around here. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A chat. We'll also be sending out a recording of this webinar if you want to share it with anybody else, or if you missed, you know, portions of the webinar today. But again, any questions, feel free to throw it in the Q&A. And again, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you.
In the Q&A, feel free to again ask any questions and give us feedback. You know, we're always trying to figure out how to improve these and give people what they need as resources to reach these kids, because this mental health crisis right now in our schools is no joke. And so again, yeah, feel free to comment what you liked, what you didn't like, what was helpful, what you found most helpful. Feel free to put there in that window, so it gives us some feedback there. So yeah, we love feedback. We like expression. I promise you cannot offend us. We love some feedback. Hey, thank you for the clapping there. I appreciate that. And the other thing is, if you ever want me to come do a workshop or speak in your schools, you know, please, I get booked out sometimes a few months in advance, but California is my favorite place on the planet. And so I'm an artist. So I like to go to California. I take pictures. I'm a watercolor artist. So I like to come back and paint the beautiful state of California being an artist. And so, yeah, feel free to reach out, and you can coordinate with Jake if in the fall, if you want to in service or want me to come speak to some people or speak to some students or whatever you need me to do. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll speak to the students in the morning. In the afternoon, I'll do a little staff development. I do that in lots of districts across the country. So anyways, you guys are my heroes. Feel free to put anything in the chat. You see anything, Jake, you need to answer there?
Yep. I'm just typing individual responses to everybody here. I really appreciate it. Yes, our